committee members. I've got Robert Green from the county, Paul Castertano and Michelle Montanino, all from the county, John Swanson from Marana, Blake Olafson from DTM, Jay Gomes ADOT, and Patricia Pablo TO Nation. Did I miss anybody at all? All right, sounds good on that. You can go to the next slide, Crystal. You guys all remember the protocol and processes we use for in-kind reporting on this, where we're able to capture the time that's been devoted to the meetings, the efforts and the activities, and use it for in-kind. Is there anybody in this meeting that's paid for with federal funds? All righty, hearing none, that's still good to hear. We can go ahead and jump in. The purpose of this meeting was simply, it had been all the way since back in July. So several of us were talking on this end. There's been some activities there, even though there's things in motion, we may not have full conclusion on several of the efforts. We did want to get this group back together. We did want to meet, share updates, and then kind of plant the seed going forward into the December meeting. So with that, our first update is Gabe on the safety activities. Gabe, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thanks, Rick. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, we'll start with the update of the road safety assessment program. Since we last chatted, we've done 2 more road safety assessments, one a design level on Tangerine Road, just east of I-10 UP for 1.9 miles. That's been completed, and we just delivered the formal report to the town of Marana for their response, including ADOT and UP and the RTA. Last week, we just completed the Stone RSA. That was a classic RSA for the built environment. We're working on the draft report right now as a team. That went well. That's a total of 5 so far for 2022. We have 2 more slated before the end of the calendar year, one on South 6 for the city of Tucson, and then a mini RSA for the town of Marana on Gladden Farms Road. We've received other requests, or we've heard tale of other requests that are coming our way, but we've received no other applications. So if anybody has any additional questions, or if they want to know more about how to apply, or if they should apply for a certain location, please feel free to reach out to me or Rick, and we're happy to talk with you about that. And just as a reminder, this is a service we provide for the region, free of cost to our member jurisdictions.
Gabe, along those lines, anything jump out and grab the team for either of those 2 projects? Obviously recognizing the distinctive difference between kind of a design and a built environment. Anything on the new and cutting edge side, or pretty much still the standard routine best practice applications?
Everything's cutting edge that we do here, Rick. Everything. You know that.
There you go. Always out of there on the forefront.
Yeah, they're very different, of course. Yeah, the one's a design and one's an existing conditions road safety assessment. One is Tangerine Road. That's a RTA project. It's a road widening. It's part of an overall larger corridor reconstruct. It's at a railroad line. It's at a pretty big interchange, and there's a lot of development slated for that. So those, we really kind of got into the nitty gritty of like where's the signage. We talked about lighting. We talked about that there's a pretty decent curve there. So a lot of those things came up. We also looked at the shared use path parallel to Tangerine Road, and where that was going to drop cyclists. So we went through a number of those recommendations. For Stone, that was a surprisingly high pedestrian safety corridor, and by that I mean there's a lot of concerns about pedestrian safety within the 1 mile stretch that we did on Stone between Fort Lowell and Grant. So that was really the primary focus, that lighting, and yeah, a few other things, but it's part of the Norte Sur overall effort along that section. Correct. And so we were working with the city a lot, and they had some stakeholders come out. And, we thought that went pretty well. And so, yeah, nothing too groundbreaking.
Got it. Blake, go ahead. I see your hand up. What's on your mind?
Talking cutting edge. I don't know if this is appropriate, but Gabe and I met with a better micro traffic, and we're be well, we have a desire, the city does, to they have some technology where they capture video and provide a near miss analysis. So we would just want to test that out and see how it goes. And not saying it would be incorporated into all RSAs, but really haven't found, the location. We want to do that, but we still have to work out logistically how, we can fund it from our end and work with PAG. I just wanted to throw that out.
Nope, I appreciate that. Thanks, man. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that, Blake. Yeah, when we met with them, I wanted to say I was very impressed. I think Blake and his team were too, with their near miss analysis, time to collision, and yeah, we're looking forward to incorporating that into an RSA going forward.
Good deal. Okay.
Anybody have any other questions on RSA?
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
If no other questions on RSAs, can move to the HSIP application update. As you all know, the state issued a call for projects under the HSIP program. We ended up applying 3 different jurisdictions, ended up applying for $18.3 million worth of applications. Happy to answer any questions about those as people have them. But it was, it was a big effort. Categories of things we did apply for: flashing yellow arrow conversion packages, hawk packages, lighting. There were some geometric changes bundled in with flashing yellow arrows, so positive offset fixes. And yeah, those are the general categories.
Gabe, what's the time frame on that? I know it's in process now, but you guys finished up your application, submitted when, and do you have a target, kind of a expected mental calendar of when you think ADOT will get back to you with any follow-up?
Yeah, we submitted mid-September. We're hoping that by the end of October or mid-November, we're going to hear back. But I haven't heard anything on the timeline. And you got to give ADOT a little slack on this, that they provided some staggered input to member jurisdictions around the state, to jurisdictions around the state, and so there are different timelines for different folks, basically, depending on when they got back to them with their comments. So, and then they gave a month to turn around those comments. So we were able to turn them around pretty quick. Like I said, we submitted mid-September. Not sure if Jay wants to jump in here. Not trying to put you on the spot, Jay. I know it's not your program per se, but if you're aware of what the timeline is for the feedback for the HSIP applications.
No, I love being put on the spot. No, what you said sounds about right. I do know they try to filter some of those through me to make sure that they're good projects. If they're questionable or if they have information missing, or they'd like me to, just in general review them for completeness or eligibility. But yeah, as far as I know, they're moving right along.
Great.
Good deal.
We'll be sure to we'll let the group know via, like, if they let us know tomorrow after the meeting, we'll let the group know via email what's going on, what was awarded, and then of course we can talk about it next time in more detail. But yeah.
You read my mind. Perfect, and thank you.
Yeah, of course. So last thing. Go ahead.
No, I was going to hit Blake up first and then Paul, because it looked like they had questions on what you were talking about. So Gabe,
sure.
But go. I just saw hands pop up. So Blake,
I see the hands now. Thank you, Rick. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I just have to put my obligatory thank you to PAG again for funding that. I'm serious here, funding these applications. Seriously, I actually, have dollar capacity to do this now, but just no time. And it really goes a long way. I know we all get frustrated at how long it takes to do this, and then it comes to fruition, but it's free money and I'm glutton for punishment. So I appreciate that. The second part is I just tying onto that, we did get our project initiations for the fiscal 23-24. So, go back, way back, Chair, to when we actually did those ones 2 years ago. They're moving along. So there is some light at the end of the tunnel. So thanks for all your work, Pat, and and the consultants that aren't here.
Blake has been brainwashed properly into appreciating federal funds. Man, I can't believe that. The world has now come to an end. No, I'm glad it's working for you. All joking aside, Blake, it is a good program. It does have value, and glad you guys are chasing it. So, Paul, what's your question?
I will second Blake's appreciation. Really, it's a great service that's been set up, and it is very helpful. And I know years ago, we had talked about how do we get the jurisdictions closer to figuring out what projects and moving that forward. So really, it is a great service that PAG is providing on that. I did have a couple questions. I've gotten a little distracted. So Gabe, can you update us and remind us, have we seen any additional funding injected into HSIP from the infrastructure law? Or is that still something that's going to be coming? And then also, I know that I think there were additional eligibilities for safety funds that had a nexus with vulnerable users, bicycle pedestrian, and I can't recall the details of what that actually meant. And I don't necessarily think that's been incorporated into the ADOT HSIP call, but if you have any insights on that, I wanted to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, as far as the additional monies, that hasn't been made clear to us by ADOT. We last I heard, they were saying they'll let us know when they know more. So that's something that we're kind of in a holding pattern on. And again, unless Jay, you have something more information on that, that's the last I've heard. Was that it was sort of forthcoming. As far as additional vulnerabilities, there's a lot of new funding pots that have come online with the new infrastructure law. And a lot of those, they actually, like Safe Streets and Roads for All, for example, the application that the county just put in on behalf of the region in September, that opened it up that skips ADOT altogether and opens it up to jurisdictions and MPOs to apply for. And there's a lot of different areas that they open up as far as eligibility and requirements for equity and additional things they're looking at. As far as the HSIP goes specifically for the ADOT call, there are things you can do that are allowable under the feds, and then there's things that are kind of shaped by ADOT. And one of their priorities is pedestrians as vulnerable users, but not cyclists, for example. So there was some back and forth about, what crashes can count towards our BC ratio when we're trying to get eligibility and trying to get a competitive application together. And unfortunately, that if it was a bicycle crash, it wasn't looked at in the same way as if it was a pedestrian crash. And so I know that there's ADOT's trying to do the best that they can to try and rank and prioritize these things statewide. But that was definitely something that we want to continue that conversation in earnest.
And there's no unicycle focus area, I understand.
There's unfortunately there's not a unicycle.
The hippity hop and the pogo stick still are not being recognized as
so I see Jeanette in the room, and I just want to maybe put a bug in her ear if that HSIP additional funding conversation might be something to bring through the COG MPO planners and directors discussion. Just give that some thought, Jeanette, and we can chat offline about that. But I'm sure there's interest statewide about like, hey, what is the injection of funding into HSIP eligibility and opportunities look like? So I know that we're not the only ones interested in that. And then just a couple other questions, Gabe. What was your take on the competitiveness of the BC ratios from the projects that came out of this region? And is everything 100% cost? I can't recall for our stuff in particular, or are there match requirements on all of these?
So yeah, it depends on what was applied for. If it's
right.
signal or Hawk related, that's covered. So most of our stuff, like the flashing yellow arrows, the Hawk packages are covered. The lighting packages,
okay.
Not 100% sure about the lighting packages. But I do know that as far as the competitiveness, I thought we were very competitive, actually. Compared to the last call, I think we were even more competitive on our BC ratios. We had the city's Hawk package was a BC ratio of over 13. Their flashing yellows were over 24.
Wow, super.
Oro Valley's had a 17. And then the counties, had a 9.6 and a 14.3 respectively for their Hawk and flashing yellow arrow conversion packages. So we had one lighting package stretch that was 2.8. So it's a little bit low, but the rest of them ranged from 6 to 14. So right. I'm really hoping that we're going to be really successful and get the majority of these funds. We also, we're happy to have these conversations with ADOT. We went back and forth with them a lot too. There were questions about eligibility. There was questions about costs. ADOT's extremely concerned about inflation right now and what the contingencies built into these cost estimates are, and rightfully so. So we had to adjust some of them. Some of them, it's in their formula with how much we should allot for certain things, but a lot of back and forth about that. And I see Jay has his hand up.
Thanks, Gary.
Yeah. Just staring at the spreadsheets the traffic safety has. All the projects you guys submitted look really good. BC ratios look really good. Everything that Gabe mentioned is all accurate. I do know, like for example, fiscal 26, we got almost 90 million available, but there's 120 in requests. And that's just in the applications that have been finalized, right? I mean, there's still applications that are in draft form that total over 60 million. So we're definitely looking or hoping that the IIJA bill will infuse some more money into that. Obviously there's tons of demand. So kudos to the region. You guys knocked it out of the park on this one. So I appreciate that.
Good deal. Thanks.
Thanks,
Gabe,
Jay.
can I put you on the spot? I saw a couple emails, but I didn't get into the details. I didn't read them. They were just quick passing ones about Safety Explorer. Is that something you feel comfortable sharing, the update from Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. That was next on my list, actually.
Thank God.
To let everyone know. Yeah, no, you're good. We typically we don't get the previous year's data from ADOT until about June or July. And it takes us a month or so to scrub it and have it incorporated in. We're a little bit slow to the game this year, and so we apologize. We still only have 2020. The good news is by the end of this week or sometime next week, we will finally have 2021 data incorporated in there. So I know that most everyone's familiar with Safety Explorer as our crash data analysis platform, and some on this call are very much power users of the platform, and we always appreciate you all using that to help out with your local needs. But thanks for your patience. We should have that out very shortly.
Cool. No, thank you. That I just had seen that pop up and didn't want to gloss over it if I could put you on the spot. So, okay. Any follow-up questions on the PAG's efforts for Gabe? Okay. Our next item is kind of the companion piece then coming at it from the regional perspective. So obviously you heard HSIP efforts, Blake's efforts on some of the past federal authorizations on HSIP, but this is a chance for any reports, sharing, or updates coming from the regional partners on safety efforts activities. So anything high clip, you don't have to kind of mention every single thing, but if there's something that you feel is of interest to the group or awareness, that's what I allowed a section for this for on the agenda. So if anybody.
I'll break the ice here. Just I think most everybody is probably aware, but it was just mentioned a few moments ago. We did compile a action plan grant for Safe Streets for All, which is one of the IIJA grant opportunities. So we saw partnership opportunities across the region and pulled in City of Tucson, Marana, Oro Valley, Pasquiyaki, PAG, and as many jurisdictions as we could so that we can develop a regional action plan. And while there's been great work that was done by PAG over the years, and the plan from 2016 still has value, what we weren't able to get to with that plan is an actual process and identification of specific implementation projects. So the action plan is going to be geared toward, I'm kind of describing it as the services that Gabe and PAG provide for HSIP application development, going from, I understand that there's a safety issue, to what do I do about it? Now I know what to do about it. Now I'm going to scope a project and go after HSIP funding. I'm kind of describing it as that on steroids, so that we're going to look at HSIP, we're going to look at federal funds, we're going to look at non-federal funds. It's going to be, in a way, funding agnostic, but there will be a differentiation for which projects have a better nexus to use federal funds and which do not, so that we kind of have a list of implementation projects ready to go that we can then go after funding opportunities for. And the plan is to kind of have that across all jurisdictions, so that each jurisdiction has a ready set list of implementation projects and programs, for that matter, because we don't want to leave that part out. So we're hopeful. We won't hear till after the turn of the year, but we're hearing positive things, and we were able to gather a lot of great support letters and get support letters out of all 4 congressional offices. City of Tucson has had conversations with Secretary's office and others at USDOT, and I think we're looked upon very favorably, and hopefully this will be something that puts us in a good position to go after implementation activities.
And just for a reminder of folks to kind of connect a couple of dots, you remember over a year ago, it came up out of the TPC during their annual review of safety projections, targets, the Dave Mitchell update, that this group was kind of tasked with how would we go about doing that on a strategic basis. And we were starting to take some steps. We were looking at it. We'd given updates at various meetings over the last year. Fortunately, when this opportunity arose, Paul stepped up with the county and able to not only jump in and take that run with it, but also kind of go to a higher level of capability than what I think we'd even envisioned. So it connects some dots in discussions that have been happening ongoing very well. So Paul, really, really appreciate you guys stepping up and jumping into it with that level of detail. So,
yeah, we understand the concerns from the PAG side about, liability and all that stuff. And we just don't have the time or luxury to get into that debate. And so let's just move on and get done with it. And there's a huge amount of value that PAG brings. So we're still going to bring you into this whole thing. And
we'll be right there by
heavily
your side
on Safety Explorer and all the expertise that you guys bring to the table. So
perfect. Okay.
Thanks. Yeah. And I just got to say, thanks, Paul, for you and your team put together a great application. And thanks for looping us into that and continuing to keep us in that loop. And, let us help you as we can, as we move forward. We're happy to do it. And we're really, really excited to see what comes of the application.
Okay. Any others? Anybody else want to jump in? All righty. Next item was our standard up. This is a standing update that we've kept all along, which is on kind of our communications with traffic signal efforts activities. So we know there's always, there's been various activities, some of it having a lot more aggressive efforts at times. And so we've kind of kept a running track on this. It's an open forum for anybody in the room. So
hey, Rick, I see that Jay's got his hand up. I'm not sure if that's just a leftover or not, but
I don't thank you for catching that. I missed it. Go for it, Jay.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Yeah, I guess before we had moved on, I just wanted to let the group know I was chasing a SMART grant. We're planning to submit an application for State Route 85 for some technology heading towards Mexico. Lukeville, all that. We have a lot of queuing issues due to the border crossing, people going to Rocky Point. It's an issue we've been having for several years. Obviously, with everyone back on the road, the issue has become exacerbated. So I'm working with a team within ADOT to get that application submitted. I figured since it's on the very outskirts of Pima County, I guess you guys should actually know about it. So
appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any interest in me sharing that with anyone on the call, but if there is, let me know.
Yeah, I was going to say, anybody that wants to know more about that, feel free to reach out to Jay.
I'll put my physical hand up.
Sweet.
Go for it.
Jay, I'd love to see that. We're talking with the City of Tucson and others about what Smart and Attain grant packages might look like. And so I've talked with John Roberts and Brent and a couple others about what ADOT's going after, and have heard of the SR 85, but I don't really know the details. So it'd be good to know what you guys are going after so that we can, if there's an opportunity to complement it or not counteract it, we certainly don't want to do that.
No, on a high level, it's kind of two-pronged, right? We're going to see if there's sensor-based infrastructure, you know, be DMS boards, radar detection, what else? Communication out in the middle of nowhere, right? And then actually using INREX data to plug and play into those message boards, advanced warning, travel time, that kind of stuff.
I'd be really interested in, particularly, you know, the radar detection would be something I want to talk with you about. We continue to have interest in INREX data and getting better use of that. But one concept we're talking about is the potential of doing passive train detection so that we can better service some of the at-grade rail crossings if we know when the arrival and blockage is going to be happening. So we'd like to, you know, get a better sense of what technologies out there in order to do that outside of the right of way.
Awesome. Yeah, I know that was kind of discussed during the training we had up in Phoenix for the UPRR Rail Pros had put on, talking about traffic engineering at rail crossings.
Oh, great.
They were talking about how preemption, you know, went from, I don't know, whatever, 30 seconds to 60 seconds to 90, and now they're so far out that you can't even catch them anymore. So actually, that's probably a good effort.
Interesting. All right. Well, we'll catch up offline.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay. Jumping into communications updates. Blake, I hate to put you on the spot because I know Francisco always covers this. Did he send you with an update, or do you got anything you can share on your own? No worries if you don't.
No, I'm sorry, I can't.
No problem. Okay. Michelle or Robert, what do you guys got going on from the county side?
Well, we continue to use MyoVision for our signal network and data and analytics. We'll have a couple new signals coming online probably in the next year, and looking to maybe expand and get some of our Hawk signals on the network. That would be positive for us. And boy, that's probably the plans, all budget depending, of course.
I was going to say money dependent. Okay. Into Hawks as well. Okay. Oro Valley, unfortunately, wasn't able to make it.
Rick, I think I just saw, people are still, I think there's a little confusion about the link today. I just saw a couple people trying to get in, Cheryl included, into the Teams meeting, not the Zoom meeting. So yeah, maybe they'll be in a second here. Let me try and message them again.
I was going to say, I'll circle back on them then. Oh, let's see. John Marana.
I don't.
Anything you can share? John, are you there?
Yeah, I am.
Anything to share from a communication side?
I'd like to, but I don't know. Apparently I don't have a speaker.
I just came through. It's a little soft, but I think I got you.
Oh, okay. We have 28 satellites, and out of that, 22 of them are communicating either on MyoVision or MaxView. And out of that, 14 of them are we can bring in video as well. That's about it, I guess.
It was fading in and out. I hate to have you repeat it again.
No, and it sounds like you're using MyoVision for your communications. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And using MyoVision.
So I think that's, mirroring
And
the county's
MaxView.
approach right now.
We do have MaxView as well.
Okay.
Plus video.
And John, do you have you've got your own Marana license for MaxView, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, because that continues to be something we're discussing at the county, the when and what does that look like and how does that accommodate the center to center communications and all of that stuff. So we can, follow up with everybody offline, but continues to be something we're evaluating.
Okay. Fantastic, John. Thank you so much. Cheryl, I just saw you pop up. We're going through and we're on item 5, which is the regional traffic signal communications update. So just kind of doing around the horn with the jurisdictions. I don't know if you're the best one to put on the spot for that. If you got something from GJ.
Yeah, sorry, I was watching on a Zoom because I did try to use the wrong link. Thanks. So yeah, right now we're just still working on the whatever we can get with MaxView and things like that. I had a question, and I brought it up a little bit with Paul because I didn't know who else to talk to. So they're having the sunset of the RTA funding of the RTDN, correct?
So, Rick, this is pertaining to a recent TIP amendment so if you recall, there was RTA funding of 150 or something per year for MaxView, basically keeping the MaxView lights on and keeping things going and repairs and things like that. That then was converted to federal funding, which then shifted it from a year-to-year allocation to front-loading everything in the fiscal year that the federal funds were available. As you know, when you program and you authorize federal funding, you then have a certain time period to use that funding on your project. So it doesn't necessarily limit the overall time duration that you can do the MaxView project. It just changes some of the parameters by federalizing that project. But the concern that Cheryl and I have discussed has been, what does that mean for the end of the life cycle supporting RTDN field equipment that some jurisdictions are still reliant upon for communications with traffic signals. So it might be something that warrants an offline meeting where Francisco can kind of run us through what the latest status is there and explain to us what the TIP amendment actually did, if I've gotten that a little bit, inaccurate or anything like that, and have a discussion about, okay, well, if support for RTDN is going to turn off in fiscal 24 or whatever it is, what's the plan after that? Is everybody going to go on their own and do MyoVision or Verizon or a third-party vendor, or are we still wanting to talk about some sort of municipally owned communications network? So I think there's desire to figure out what the end of the road looks like for RTDN support, when that's going to happen, and what's next.
And I think along those lines, so Paul, you summarized it perfectly. And the only wrinkle I would add is at one time, I think Francisco was mentioning that there may be kind of a shift, that shift you're talking about of going from a MaxView into something else. And I didn't follow track it all that much. It was kind of in conjunction with it. that, okay, because we're now shifting funding sources, we needed to cover an existing contract item. There was some things we needed to be able to cover in the interim while they got a new platform up and running. And that's where I'm losing. Francisco was talking about it, but I didn't jump into the weeds with him, and it was just a real high clip summary of status. So I like Paul, excuse me, Paul's recommendation that you could probably follow up with Francisco directly and see where not only he's going to go with it, but currently where that overall status effort's at.
That sounds good. So maybe Cheryl, you and I can chat offline, and we'll get with Francisco and anyone else that would like to be pulled in for an update. We can either summarize or pull you into that conversation.
Okay, yeah, and I had talked to GJ about the change in the platform that they're using to do all of it too, and he was aware of that. So I just want to make sure that we're all staying informed and everybody on the same page, and so that we don't lose any of what we already have.
Definitely grab Francisco directly on that.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm summarizing on an epic proportion level, just based on partial understanding. Plus, I was looking for a different update, but he's put a lot of time, effort, and thought into that, and I know he had some very detailed discussions. So, if you want to get with Paul and then connect on that with Francisco.
Yeah, and just for the equipment we have, how
exactly
how's the maintenance contract going now and everything like that, because I know it was like a regional thing before, and so I just want to follow up and make sure that we're doing what we need to do and we're all on the same page.
Yeah, good call.
We'll follow up with DT.
Hey Rick, this is Jay.
Go for it.
Hey, to follow up on that, I mean, is that something we can set up a separate working meeting or something for the whole group? Keep that conversation going as opposed to talking about it every 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, by all means, yeah. Everybody that's affected and part of that, jump into it, and I'd say run with that. Talk to Francisco and see what the best forum is for having those discussions. Who all needs to be part of that? I mean, that's kind of a.
Yeah, the only way to keep something like that going is to have standing meetings.
Yeah.
So
jump in, get an update from Francisco and kind of see where he wants to take that, and then circle back if that's something that, since that's kind of specific and focused to a few folks, that's fine, or we can use this for him.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely check in with him first to see what his thoughts are, get caught up on that. I don't want to misrepresent that, but then we can certainly figure out what's going to go next and what's the best forum to keep that live up and running.
And Rick, if you could help just to facilitate, getting people together and making sure everyone's notified of any of those meetings that we would have, even if they're not, necessarily in this forum, if we could use you to help us keep people informed that we're having meetings.
Okay. Along those lines, then, if you guys, when you connect with Francisco or as you look to set that up, keep me in the game.
Okay.
I'll jump in on that then with you guys. Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it. Okay. Sarita is, Paul couldn't make it, so no update. Jay, what do you got from your end?
That's a loaded question.
I just threw it out there, man. Take it on with it. Okay.
So, yeah, so I've been having issues out on Oracle Road and with our adaptive system, and so I've been diving into it a little bit. Turns out I need to update it a little bit, software and whatnot. Talking to my friends at Q-Free, they're like, "Oh yeah, Jay, you're behind about 5 updates." I'm like, "Oh, no wonder it's not working right. Thanks. When are we going to do that?" So we're hoping to get that going next week. Just one of those other, O&M things you got to think about when you keep all these, technologically advanced systems running.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the county, having dived right into MileVision, may not have to worry about that so much because it's all pretty new. But eventually, depending on how everything's set up, whether updates are automatic or whether you got to buy them or whether you got to, shut the system down for a minute to do it. Just keep those kinds of things in mind. Let's see. otherwise, I think everything else is going pretty well. We have all of our equipment on order with those Fed projects from last year. Hoping to get that equipment December-ish, maybe installed by March. So I'll definitely keep you apprised of that. Not
Perfect.
sure I have much else to offer. So yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
And Jay, are you, is the city of Tucson talking to you about traffic adaptive? I mean, I know they've got a lot of interest and they're moving forward with a couple of test locations, and I'm not sure what vendor they're using, but boy, I sure don't want them to relive any of the pain points that you've already gotten gray hairs over and whatnot, right? So.
Mm-hmm. I do talk to Francisco a lot. They do have a couple adaptive corridors. One's on Ajo, right? They took it from Park out to La Cholla, I believe. Seems to be working fairly well, especially in and around the I-19 Spooey. I think it works well. I drive through it a couple times a week. I think they also have another one up and down Park. And they're using no traffic. And so that's just the company. Like I said, seems to be working fairly well as far as I can tell. But yeah, it's crazy. Like all the systems are all different, you know. Yeah. Some of them are all inclusive. Some are different packages. Some you need this, some you need that. So I mean, you definitely have to take a look at each system individually and tailor it to your needs.
Yeah, a lot of mix and match possibilities, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And, you know, it'd be healthy to maybe in this venue, if that's appropriate, have a discussion about traffic signal timing on the whole, you know, with adaptive in there. So I had a conversation with George Williams recently, and we talked about, you know, the frequency of updating signal time plans and all of that. I know the region a few years ago said, yeah, let's try to get to the ITE recommended 3 to 5 year update cycle. But I think there's been some, you know, wandering since then, and it might be a good conversation to reignite a little bit so that we can, you know, pull Bob Green and the city's signal guys into that discussion with you, Jay, and just make sure that everybody's communicating and tracking to, you know, the frequency of update that you guys think we can achieve and is, you know, the best scenario possible. Adaptive will certainly be part of that, but there's also plenty of non-adaptive stuff that needs to be watered from time to time, right? You can't just let the garden go dry.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Anybody else? Patricia, I'll call on you, but I was not aware. I don't know if the TO has any communications efforts or traffic signal efforts that are under your purview that you're aware of. So, but I didn't want to skip over without giving you a chance to jump in.
Can you hear me?
Yep, got you loud and clear.
Okay. Not at this time. I don't think so. We still need to talk to Damascus and see if we have any plans regarding that. So, but hopefully at the next meeting, I might have something.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good, and we'll look forward to it.
Okay.
All righty. Folks, that's all I had on the agenda for the, as just kind of like I said, it was more of a general update. We hadn't met since July. A lot of balls in motion. Wanted to catch this group up in particular. Any closing questions on any of the topics we've talked about? Obviously, if for open meeting law, we can't go into anything that's not on the agenda, but anybody want to go back, follow up questions to any of the updates? If not, one thing I want you to put on your radar screen, please block out Thursday, December 1st, 9 o'clock till 11. Dave Mitchell is going to be bringing forth his annual safety projections discussion. And as you guys remember from past meetings, we're the first cut on that. Then it goes through the various committees all the way on up to the PAG Regional Council for final adoption on it. but we're the kind of the first one he rolls it out to as the on-hand practitioners. So David targeted that. I believe he wanted to hit TPC later that month. So the 8th, which is our normal second Thursday, that has a conflict with the board meeting. You're going to stay off of that one, but I'm going to try to keep it on Thursday. So Thursday, the December 1st, 9 to 11. If you can block that out, I'll finalize that with Dave, make sure that's copacetic, and then I'll be sending out an agenda and a reminder well in advance.
So I anticipate that means that ADOT has released their statewide draft projections at this point.
I will tell you in 2 seconds.
And I can follow up with Dave and Jeanette offline. That's fine. But I'm just.
Yes, I believe they have. Paul.
Okay. I figured, that's typically what they'll do is they'll say, hey, this is where we think the projections are statewide. And then PAG and the other MPOs say, okay, let's take a look at what that means for our region.
Yep. He had just gotten those earlier in the month. And so he's targeting regional council activity by probably February. And that's why he wanted to have us jump on it with our normal December meeting. So,
sounds good. I can follow up with Dave and Thor and others and figure out what that looks like.
Okay. I was going to say, anybody that had more detailed questions, feel free to reach out to Dave directly. But I'll put that on the radar screen for the committee coming forward into the December timeframe on that so that we can hit the rest of his targeted deadlines. Okay. Any other questions, thoughts, comments? Folks, it's always good seeing everybody. Glad you're doing well. We'll look forward to seeing you in roughly about 6 weeks, give or take. And until then, have a fantastic rest of the day. As always, reach out if you need anything or want more follow-up discussion, but we'll look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Best to you too.
We're good. We're adjourned. Take care. Be good. Be well. Have a good one, folks.